And we are live. Hey, friends, welcome back to Homemaking with Purpose. And tonight's show, I know it's going to resonate well to quite a few of you. It's going to be a little close to home. I know it was close to home for me because there was a specific incident that kind of generated this particular topic for tonight. And I think we've all had that moment where something small, something petty, just kind of sets us off. And
Mhm.
maybe it's dishes in the sink, could be socks on the floor, and it could be a mess that no one sees but you.
Mm.
And for me, it was the fish grease. But before we get into my story, let's welcome my sister from another mister, Miss Leona from Ebony, Ivy, and Time with Leona. Leona, say hello to the viewers.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to see all of you. And tonight is going to be so much fun. And, I think it'll be helpful. And what a great way and a great subject to come to tonight after last week. Last week was really important. And then tonight, this is even better because this is something that most of us ignore sometimes, those little things.
Exactly. And I think, I don't know how we happen to do this, but I think each week is building upon something relating to empowerment,
Mhm.
self care, something to just help make us better homemakers, um, just better women in general.
Mhm.
And when I say homemakers, don't get it twisted. Everybody out there that is making and creating a home, whether it's just you, if it's you and your boo, if it's you and a family, you are a homemaker because you are creating a nurturing space in which to live. It's not 1950 anymore, so it's not necessarily June Cleaver or Donna Reed. It's today is a whole different story. But okay, so let me finish my story. So, you know, last week I was cleaning the kitchen like I normally do, and I was cleaning the kitchen again. And my husband will clean the kitchen, but when he does, it's not like I clean it, but I was cleaning the kitchen and I was straining fish grease into a container. Now, all while I was straining this fish grease, I was muttering under my breath, thinking, why didn't he strain this fish grease and put it away after he fried the fish? Now, granted, I know it's got to cool first, but after that, why didn't he put it away? And the fish grease had been sitting in this pot on the stove for 2 days. So I cleaned up in the kitchen, washed dishes, and for 2 days, that pot has sat there. So it's kind of like one of those things that he just doesn't see. And I knew that if I didn't put that pot of fish grease away, it would sit there for a week. Unless
Mhm.
he got ready to fry some more fish, then he would probably use that or whatever. So, and what I do when I strain it, I will put it through a strainer and
Mhm.
just strain out all the little cornmeal that's sometimes in it when you fry it, so that
Mhm.
it's nice and clear and clean. So when he's ready to use it the next time, it's clean. Now, does he ask me to strain it? No, it's just something that I do. It's one of the ways that I care for him. But I was just annoyed that I'm like, why is it still sitting here? He's cleaned up in the kitchen at least once and it is still on the stove. So that was my annoyance. And I thought, okay, what's the problem here? I thought,
Mhm.
am I annoyed because the fish grease is there and I'm the only one that sees it? Because after I saw it, I thought, oh, okay, stop, Denise, just back up for a minute. I thought, he cooks. So the day that he cooked fish, he made his own meal. So he
Mhm.
will make his own meal when he chooses to, or if I ask him to.
Mhm.
And so I thought, he cooks. And then I thought, and I'm glad he's here.
Mhm.
Because then I thought, there are quite a few women that I know right now who have lost their husband.
Mhm.
So they would love to have fish grease to complain about. So I thought about that. And then I also thought about that group of women who, for whatever reason, they've lost their partner. It could be through widowhood, it could be through divorce, but all of a sudden they find themselves alone.
Mm-hmm.
They would love to have that someone in their lives to kind of do things for and do things for them that they once had. And then we have our single moms who are holding it down on their own. They have children, and there's no one coming in to save them. There's no one coming in to take up the slack. So they have to do it all on their own. If they have older children, they can begin to delegate. But I thought, okay, so just stop. It's not that deep. So, Leona, do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I'm going to start with a little story. And this is, of course, yours was the grease.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was a an old shower mat. And this in particular was the mat that I had to go to the store. He had all the specifications for. I went out, I purchased it, and it's finally died. So I put it all together. Who had to do that? Me. Okay, well, I was okay with that. So I got it into a bag and it needed to go out to the trash. Well, I thought, okay, I'm going to tie this up. I'm going to put it, because we had company, I'm going to put it on the door of the garage because I knew he would be the one to go out to the garage and he would take it out, put it in the main trash can. 4 days went by. The bag was still sitting on the handle. And I'm thinking, both of us at this point are walking out the door. And I said, honey, uh, what's in this bag? Oh, uh, I, and he touched it. He said, oh, it's that old shower mat. And I said, so why is it still here and not in the trash? Well, I didn't know you wanted me to throw it away. I just had to bite my tongue. I had to bite my tongue. I said, sure, please put it away. Throw it away. Put it in the trash can. Please. And I mean, I purchased a brand new one. I cleaned up the bathroom, cleaned up the shower, had put the new one in. And I just knew, okay, you would at least throw away the old one. No, that didn't happen. So, whew, this is going to be a good topic tonight. I need it.
Well, and you know what? I needed too, because we had another situation yesterday, which I can't go into, but I was just like, I was just angry over, and then I was talking to my daughter last night, and I was telling her all about it. She was like, "Mom," she said, "now don't go to bed mad." I says, "Well, I am not in charity with your father right now." She says, "Mom, don't go to bed mad." And by the time we went to bed, and I wasn't mad any longer. And I had actually come up here and I was sitting in here in this spot working, and he comes in and hugs me around the neck, and he's, nuzzling my neck. It's like, honey, I'm sorry. And I'm like, but I guess the question though is what's really going on. So when I think about my annoyance with the fish grease, or if for some of you it could be the cap off the toothpaste, could be the socks on the floor, and it could be something with your partner, it could be something with your children. What's really going on? Like, what is at the root of what's causing you to be so annoyed? And before we get into it, Leona, let me just say that for those of you that are just joining us, I'm Miss Denise, and I am the host of Homemaking with Purpose. And then with me is Miss Leona from Ebony, Ivy, and Time with Leona. And I teach traditional homemaking for today's homemaker. And Miss Leona teaches you how to get it done in the kitchen. She takes care of that. And then this episode of Homemaking with Purpose is brought to you by Yes You Can, a beginner's guide to water bath canning, which is my canning course. So to get on the wait list, sign up for my newsletter, and then we'll let people know that way initially. Mm-hmm. And Miss Leona, don't you have a sourdough series you might want to talk about?
Well, I have an ebook on sourdough, and I'm in the process of putting some videos together, working on that video series, and so that will be coming. That's something that's just around the corner,
Mhm.
and because certainly, as we think about our health and going into a new school year, we want to make sure that whatever it is that we're serving our children, our family, that we're trying to put the best on the table that we can, and
Mhm.
also stay within budget. And one of the most, I'll say the one of the greatest things that we spend a lot of money on, especially during school time, is bread.
Yes.
And so that's something that we can do ourselves. And for instance, we had company. I prepared pre-prepared the bread for the weekend, and it made it so easy.
Such
So
a
every
key.
time we ate, we had fresh bread. So it was nice to be able to do that. So just think about that as we're going through our different series and keeping an eye out on our bread series. And
Okay.
I'm gonna get Miss Denise into that sourdough back.
I'm going to
That's
do
what
it. I'm
we're
going to
doing.
do it.
All
But
right.
okay, let's get back on topic. So the question is, what's really going on? And I have to ask myself, was I really like what was going on with me that I was so annoyed over the fish grease, and which is something I normally do all the time and don't think a thing about it.
Mhm,
Like what was really going on? And I have to ask myself, like, was I overly tired that night?
mhm,
You know, was it something like that? Was I feeling like unseen or unappreciated? Because I knew that if I let it sit there one more night, it would just sit there one more night.
mhm,
And maybe I was just feeling a little resentful that that was something that I saw or that he didn't see, you
mhm,
know. And
mhm,
like even tonight, for example, I was he cleaned up the kitchen, put everything away, you know, after dinner, and put some dishes in the dishwasher, but I always have to go back after he loads the dishwasher and rearrange things because the
mhm,
way he puts them in there, the water does not get to the dishes and so they won't get clean. Now, I don't
mhm,
tell him that that's what I'm doing,
mhm,
but I've a couple of times kind of said, now try to put the bowls in this way or whatever. And it's the bowls that's typically the problem. But
mhm,
anyway, I wasn't annoyed. I know that's something he's going to load it the best way he can. And
mhm,
I appreciate the fact that he cleaned up the kitchen, he loaded the dishwasher. So I'm not about to complain about how he loads it. Now, if I'm doing a video about how to load a dishwasher, he may hear me and then he'll think, hmm. But other than that, so that's the thing. So what was really going on with me that
mhm.
I was so annoyed? What do you think? What was my problem that particular day? What do you think?
Well, I think certainly at that point you were probably feeling maybe a little ignored, because are underappreciated,
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact, of course, not to say that had you said something, he would have felt unappreciated
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that he had cooked. And I know with that, bath mat, what was the big deal with the bath mat? But it was just that, how do you miss it? And I had an entire house full of people. I had cleaned up. The list just kind of goes on of things that I had already done. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, this is a key, the least he could do is to take it out. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to look at myself and say, if it was really that important, I should have just asked him.
Exactly. Like why didn't you just say, honey, can you take this out for me? Rather than putting it
Mhm,
on the door, just say,
mhm,
can you take this out for me? And I have
mhm.
to tell you, there's this couple that I've been watching that is just so cute and so funny. And it's called the Classics TV, I think.
Uh-huh.
I'll try to find them and link them below, but they have this series called How to Talk Husband or How to Talk Wife.
Mhm,
And it is so cute when I watch her talking to her husband because she comes up with a way of asking him a question or asking him to do something that makes him want to do it like right now,
mhm,
you know.
mhm,
And it's like, okay, so I need to, you would think I would know all these little tricks after 52 plus years of marriage.
mhm.
but sometimes, I forget some things.
Mhm.
So I think you could have just said, honey, can you take this out for me
Mhm.
and hand it to him and have him take it out then. Now, if he was in the middle of something, then you could have said, can you take this out as soon as you finish that or within the next few
Mhm.
minutes, kind of give him
Mhm.
a bit of control over the situation, that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
You're absolutely right. But as sometimes at that second, you just don't think about what you should do.
Yes.
And sometimes, that other little voice, you see the little angel on one side and the little other
Mhm.
person over on the other. And sometimes this person gets in your ear. And so, in trying to stay as positive as possible, yes, I should, I look at myself and I should have just said, honey, will you take it out? And
Mhm.
that would have ended my anxiety and upset.
Mhm.
Yes, I see we've got quite a few. Got
Yes,
Clarissa,
we've got our
Alfred.
regulars jumping in, and I so
Yeah.
appreciate the ladies coming back every week and sharing
Mhm,
with us. And we have Nitty who says this topic is perfect to follow up last week's topic. So
mhm,
yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and we agreed that this was a good one to follow up on.
mhm.
And then we've got Ella who's saying good evening,
Hey, Ella.
and Evelyn.
Ella.
Thank you, Evelyn. We appreciate that. So we've got quite a few people
Oh,
uh,
really?
on.
Mhm.
And Tamika says, and she was the first one here today. She said, this is going to be good. She can already tell. And I am not alone. She says
No.
her husband does this too. She calls it the eternal oil pot. See that? I can certainly see that.
Mhm, mhm.
So, Leona, what do you have to say about all of this? Just what
Well, I think because there's so much on our plate, typically. And I don't know about your household, but when you compare apples to oranges, we are probably the ones with the heaviest load
yeah.
within the household. And so because of that, we may not say that we're feeling unappreciated.
Hmm.
And sometimes I know I don't acknowledge when I'm tired, and
Yes.
I'm usually trying to act like I'm not tired. And but then if we put it off, resentment builds up. And so as we're looking at that, while what it usually takes something little, that little thing, to just set things into motion that aren't really that big.
Hmm.
And so I know I try to control that, and sometimes that works, and most of the time it does.
Hmm.
90% of the time it does. But women, when you think about it, we were just talking about one situation earlier before we started. We're mothers, we're grandmothers, we've got health things going on. We've got that we're dealing with.
Yes.
We're looking at our health. We're looking at, our partner's health, our husband's health, and looking at the health of our children.
Hmm.
And so, a lot of us, I know quite a few of us, even in the chat, are dealing with multiple things.
Yes.
And we're trying to keep that under the umbrella and trying to maintain being the good mom, the good mother, the good person.
Hmm.
And sometimes there's a crack. And
And
it's
Leona, I agree with that. And I find that as I get older too, sometimes my capacity to
mm,
do all of these things is reduced. I don't have the energy to do all of the things that I used to do. So
mhm,
when I'm trying to finish up my after dinner cleanup, and I may be getting a little bit tired because of that, and may sometimes be inclined to snap because he will say, since you cook dinner, I'll get the kitchen for you. And so I'm like, okay. And so while, he'll start getting the dishes in the sink. Now he ain't gonna get that fish grease, but he'll get everything else. But he'll start, cleaning
Mhm.
up, and if I start like putting the food in the putting it away in a refrigerator container, he'll be like, nope. He said, I said I get it. He said, now if you don't get out of the kitchen, I'm not gonna stay in here. So then
Mhm.
I'll be forced to go out and
Mhm.
sit down or go somewhere else so that he can do it. And so let me just say here too that, and it took me a while to learn this. When they do a task, we have to let them do it
Mhm.
and not complain about the way they do it because they're not going to do it the way we would do it, but it could be satisfactory.
That's right.
So, he'll like going out, I can put the food away. You taught me well. I know where the containers are, so I can
Mhm.
take care of it. And he will.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that he will do for me. So that's why I'm like, so why am I annoyed because of the fish grease? And I think it was just on that particular day, I was just tired because today there was fish grease on the stove when I was cleaning up the kitchen from yesterday,
Mhm.
and I was not annoyed.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Mhm.
wasn't tired, and I think I had reframed my thoughts. I had a different
Mhm.
perspective about that too, because of course you do have to let it cool. And then
Mhm.
I like to strain it a certain way to make sure it's
Mhm.
nice and clean
Mhm.
and all that. So, but anyway, you go ahead.
Well, you're right. You're right in that. It takes me back to the kids. Well, in fact, it takes me back even further than that. It takes me back to my mother. My mother was one of those who would ask you, if she asked you to vacuum, you would vacuum the floor. Then she would come in and say, "Well, no, you need to vacuum it this way," because she liked all the lines to go in a certain direction or whatever. When you vacuum. And so I would be really irritated because I had already vacuumed the floor. And so I promised myself that when I had children that I would never do that.
Mhm.
That, if I asked them to do something, if there was something that really needed instruction, I would give the instructions at the beginning, but then I'd let them do it. And if it needed touching up, then out of their sight, I would touch up whatever needed to be touched up because I never wanted them to feel like I didn't appreciate what they had done.
Yes,
And so I
exactly.
think I almost have to have that same thought when I'm dealing with hubby
Mhm.
because I need to let him know I appreciate what he's done, but at the same time, I might have to go behind him and do it a little different.
Well, one thing on that same line, when we think about our children and even our partners, when
Mhm.
there's something we want them to do, like your mom, for example, she wanted the lines a certain way. So did she teach you, say, Leona, this is how I want you to do it? I want you to make the lines this way. So it is up to her, and
Mhm.
it is up to whoever is asking one to do a task to show them, to show whoever they're delegating the task to how to do it if there's a certain standard you expect to be met.
Exactly.
Now, when I
Exactly.
was going to care for my cousin, I wanted hubby to water my patio garden for me. And
Mhm.
so I had him come outside so I could show him what I wanted him to do. And he's like, you don't need to show me how to water. I know how to water. I've been watering all my life. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I do this every day. And I know the easiest way to get the hose around the things on this patio. And I have a certain routine to go so that you don't miss anything.
Mhm.
Now,
Mhm.
whether or not he followed that routine when I was gone, I have no idea. But when I got back, the plants were thriving, which was all that mattered. But so I guess it depends to a point what the task is too, because he thought, look, I don't
Mhm.
need instruction on that. But there
Mhm.
are other things though that, he might say, well, how do you do this? That kind of
Mhm.
thing. So
Mhm.
that's something to think about too. Because he will put like he'll unload the dishwasher, he'll put
Mhm.
the dishes away. Now he plays search and sees when he puts them away. He puts them where he thinks they go, not
Mhm.
necessarily
Mhm.
where I think they should go, but I
Mhm.
can find them and I can always, real quick move them to wherever they need to be. So I
Exactly.
think we have to have a little bit of grace. And the older I get, the
Mhm.
more grace I realize I need to give others and also myself.
That's true. That is so true. That is so true. And, that's one of those things that we really have to stop and think about before we speak.
Hmm.
And I am definitely that's right here. I'm talking to myself. I may not be talking to anybody else out there, but I'm talking to myself is that I have to stop and think about what I'm about to say. And if it's going to be something that's more encouraging, or is it something that's really going to send that person over the edge to the point of where they will never do it again?
Hmm.
That's not the goal.
Hmm.
That's really not the goal.
No, it's not. And so if you're giving yourself grace and giving others grace by just giving a little instruction upon what needs to happen. And so, for you guys that are out there, let us know in the chat if you've had a situation recently or that you can think of where, maybe you could have given a little bit more grace or something that, like our situation, that kind of caused you to just kind of just be really annoyed, but then you had to kind of step back. And here we've got Sarah saying she's really been needing to hear this kind of content. She's in the thick of it with a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old trying to
Mhm.
balance being a great mama and keep up with the household chores. Leon, I'll let you take this one. I'll let you start this one.
Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. Bless your heart.
Mhm.
That takes me back to where and you're absolutely right, Sarah. You are trying to balance. And that's the main thing,
Keyword.
trying to balance. And as you balance or attempt to balance, because the 5-year-old and the 2.5, they're gonna do what they do. And so, it's a matter of working around them. But at the same time, you should be able to look at yourself and have things in such a way that you can still, because you are balancing and being that great mom. And that's the thing. You must accept yourself as the great mother every day. When you get up and look in that mirror, you need to say, you know, I am a great mom. Everybody's been fed, everybody has clean clothes, everybody got to bed on time. Whew. Hubby and I had a moment, together. He's happy, I'm happy, and it's a good night.
Mhm.
Is everything perfect? Probably not, but that's okay. And
Mhm.
that's where the grace comes in because it is a matter of knowing that you have done the best that you can do for that day. And every day's different. Some
Yes.
days, it's gonna, things may look like a wreck, but it's our perspective as we look at it. So, take it easy because tomorrow is a new day
Mhm.
and you're starting off clean the next day. And that's the hard part. I had a hard time recognizing that each day was new. If
Mhm.
today wasn't great, then I tried the next day to clean it up and get it better.
Make it better.
Mhm.
And here's the other thing too that I was thinking about when you try to keep up with the household chores. I think what you want to do, because like right now your littles are little. And so they
Mhm.
require a lot of time and attention and a lot of energy. And they're probably both of them home all day. So you've got 3 meals a day to fix for them, not to mention laundry, that kind of thing. So I would encourage you to set priorities as to what tasks need to be done every day.
Mhm.
Like what are your top 3 things? And for me, like my kitchen's got to be clean, the dishes have got to be done, the laundry's got to be started, swish and swipe in the bathroom,
Mhm.
and the bed's made. If I
That's
get that much done, I feel like I've done pretty darn good. And
mhm.
with 2 kids that age,
Whew.
you're going to need to do laundry every day. But if you get
Absolutely.
one load done, transferred to the dryer, folded, put away, you've got a great amount of work done.
Mhm.
You've made breakfast, you've made lunch, you've made dinner, get that kitchen cleaned up, table wiped down, all that stuff done. You've done quite a bit. So some of those other things that might need to be done in the home, well, whether or not you can get to them remains to be seen. But set your priorities as to what you think is the most important thing for you to do in your home,
Mhm.
maybe 3 or 4, and try to do those every day. And then if you have time, you can focus on something else.
I tell you what, you are absolutely right. I lost track for a moment, Denise. I was over here and somebody was telling a story that brought up another story in my mind. They were talking about their husbands and the different driving styles, but we'll get to it in a little while. But
Okay.
it is a hoot. Oh, let's see.
So
God,
Tamika says
Tamika.
her husband does that when he cooks chicken or steak. She does her best not to complain, or at least not to complain complain out loud. Sometimes when they cook, I think like on that one couple I was telling you about, um, he was going to try to cook something for dinner. He wanted her to get up and cook, and she was like working at the computer. So he
Mhm,
says, "Well, she's busy, so I'll just,
mhm,
go ahead and get started. But I'll do it in such a way that when she sees what I'm doing, she'll come in here." And
mhm,
so he was in the cabinet getting down a pot, and all of a sudden she's like, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, well, you're busy, and I'm going to make myself, get dinner started." She's like, "Oh no, I'll cook." He says, "Well,
mhm.
you're busy." She says, "Nope, nope, I'm not too busy to cook. I'll cook because whenever you make dinner, you tear up the whole kitchen." And so but that was what he wanted to happen over. And I will have to remember to link those because they are just
They
so.
are funny.
But it's like, yeah, I can see some of these things happening.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so we have to allow them though to do some things and just
Mhm,
not
mhm.
complain out loud. So like I might, be a little annoyed, or I might talk to my daughter and say, "Do you know what your dad did today?" But other than that, it's not going to be anything. If it's serious, now I'm not going to say it to her either.
Right.
But
Mhm.
but okay.
Oh, that's cute.
So Alexander says her heart
Mhm.
breaks for anyone who's lost their person. Loving each other now is most important. There are so
That's
many
right.
problems that are from the past and the future, and now is all we ever have. Now, you know what? That's true.
That is so true. So true.
And
So
then here's Sweet Tea.
Aw.
And then Tamika says she feels herself getting annoyed because she finds herself feeling overwhelmed and not appreciated at times.
Mhm.
And I think that can happen. And I think, Sarah, you can probably feel a little overwhelmed and unappreciated at times as well. So,
I'm
Tamika,
sure.
I hear you.
Mhm. And, men, I don't wanna say all men, I won't lump everybody in the same category, but quite a few men, those that I know, tend not to be the ones to come through and say, "Oh, honey, this is fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh, this is wonderful." And they don't know that those are the words that will make us just do everything that they need.
Mhm,
Just
mhm.
a little bit of appreciation goes a long way. So now, Denise, the next time he comes in to nuzzle you on the neck, you better.
Now wait. Okay, so now let me give the folks a backstory because they're probably like, "What?" So after yesterday, I was annoyed with him for something that I, can't describe here. But I had told my daughter about it, and she was like, "Now, Mom, don't go to bed mad. Don't be mad at Dad all night." I'm like, mm-hmm. And so I was in here working at the computer, and he comes up and he's like, nuzzles me on the neck and like, "I'm sorry." And I just looked at him like, but by the time we went to bed, like we always go to bed at the same time. Because I
Mhm,
tell my young homemakers, you and your hubby should go to bed at the same time. Y'all not
mhm.
roommates. Even if you stay awake watching something on your iPad or whatever, at least you're in bed together at the same time.
That's right.
And so then we'll snuggle in, and sometimes I'll reach over and I'll just kind of pat him, like on his arm or on his chest or whatever, just to reach over and touch him because,
Mhm.
he's there. And I just kind of like to do that. So by the time we went to sleep, we were in charity with one another. But yes, I will give him the side eye the next time.
Oh, goodness. But, just seriously, those are the things that sometimes maybe we might have to speak up and say, honey, I really would work even a little better if you would just acknowledge the things that I do.
Mhm.
And in turn, I will acknowledge the things that you do. And that might
Yes.
be a conversation that you
Mhm.
have. And
Mhm.
especially those of you who are young and just getting started, that's the conversation to have.
Mhm. definitely, that's definitely a conversation to have. And there's someone, I don't think I know this person. Oh,
Kimberly.
is this your
Mhm.
friend from the
Yeah.
UK or somewhere?
Yes, yes. And
Ah.
she's so cute. She comes in on both of our channels on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that. Thank you, Kimberly, for coming tonight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let me get this off, and let me make sure I'm staying on track with. So we talked about whether or not it was really about the whatever, and that it
Mhm,
could be we were overwhelmed, feeling unappreciated, could be mental fatigue and that kind of thing. But
mhm,
here's the other thing, and I think I alluded to this one just a little bit when I said that as I get older, I don't have as much capacity to do some things, and
mhm.
different seasons may affect our patience and our perception. So I was doing laundry today, and I swear my husband generates as much laundry as a 2 year old. I could not believe, well, I hadn't done laundry in the last few days because I was working on getting the course up. And so I was like, had my head down and I was beavering away. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have this done by Saturday. But I had like 5 loads of laundry, and it was mostly all
Woo.
his stuff. And I'm like, how can there be so much stuff? And he said, well, he says, I use more clothes. It's been really hot.
Mhm,
There's
mhm,
been a couple days where they've taken his fishing club has taken kids fishing. So
mhm,
that's a whole outfit to go and then
mhm,
come back, shower, a new outfit to put on,
mhm,
not to mention sheets and towels.
mhm.
It was just like, I'm like, there was just a lot. But the nice thing about that though is like, and he can't use our washing machine. I've showed him
Mhm.
several times, and it's not passive aggressive. You know, he the last time he tried to use our washer, he put the detergent down the bleach bin.
Oh, no.
Took me days to get that out of there. It's one of those electric kind of, fan
Mhm,
things. And I'm like, you know what? I put him in the wash and I'll put him in the dryer. And another annoyance, I can be up here in the office and I can hear the buzzer from the dryer go off that the dryer stopped. That buzzer will go off 3 or 4 times while I'm up here, and he's sitting
mhm.
right across from the in the kitchen, and he doesn't hear it. Or if I don't say, babe, when the buzzer goes off, get the clothes out of the dryer, it
Mhm,
doesn't connect.
mhm,
But
mhm.
if I say get the clothes out, he will. But when I get them out, I can put them on the chair. He'll
Mm.
fold them up. He'll put them away. So he's very good at helping me to get them put away. So I don't always have to do that. He'll Yeah,
Wow.
he'll hang up the shirts. He'll now fold in underwear. He's like, why fold underwear? He'll just roll it up and put in these little. I got these little organizing pockets. You can put them down in like that. He'll just roll them up and stick them down in there. But he
Mhm,
puts them in there. But
mhm,
he'll fold up the shirts or hang them on the hangers or
mhm.
off his fishing gear. He'll put all that stuff away. So that's a big help.
That is a big help because I can tell you that doesn't happen here. Now, I do the wash, I get it out of the dryer, I fold everything in their little piles. Now, I do take them in and I sit them on his side of the bed. So before he goes to bed, he has to put everything away.
Mhm.
And so, of course, his question was initially when I started doing that was, well, why don't you just put them in the drawer? The drawer is right there. And I'm thinking, no, you didn't. I have
Why don't I just put them in the drawer?
dried. You can put them in the drawer. And I
Mhm.
said, well, honey, I said, no. I said, you have your own system once you get into the drawer. So you handle that part. I'll just get
Wait,
them
wait.
here.
I'm gonna stop you right there. I want everybody out there to make sure you heard what Miss Leona said because she handled this very well. And so I'm going to have you back up, circle back, and talk about how you finessed him to do that.
Well, yeah, I put it back on him, honey. You have your own system. So you put those up and I'll just make sure they're here.
Mhm,
And so then that took that part out. That took me out of it.
mhm.
But it's just it's funny. It is the way we say things.
Yes.
And he thought, oh, yeah, I do have a certain system to do that. My drawers look better than yours. And he went through all of his little to do, and I'm
Mhm,
rolling my eyes out of sight. But yes, he does. And so I just let him handle that. That was one for him.
mhm,
But, you're absolutely right about seasons because, I, I don't have the energy that I used to have.
mhm.
And so, because of that, there are things I need help with. And,
Yes,
and so I have to make sure that I state that.
yes, yes.
That's the key. I
That.
have to be able to say, I need help.
Mhm.
And whereas, I can think of probably up until the last 10 years, I didn't need any help.
Well,
What I
and
need.
you're right about that.
Hmm. I mean, I had it done. And not saying I was superwoman, but things were done. And but within the past 10 years, it's like every year of those 10, I have something has just left.
Well, and you know what though too, when we talk about the seasons for us, the
Mm-hmm.
seasons for them change as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're spending more time at home. They're a little bit quieter.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have more time to assist us if we ask.
Exactly.
So today, I put in my third load of laundry today. And I was upstairs about to bring a load down. Was that it? Well,
Mhm.
no, I was coming downstairs and he was on his way up. He says, "Is there anything I can do to help you?" And I was like, "Yes." I was going
Mhm.
to put the load of laundry on the clothesline because I had separated the pants that I put into the dryer with the shirts
Mhm.
that go on the line. I said,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I have to hang these clothes out so you can help me do that, and you can feed the cat."
Uh-huh.
Fed the cat, and then he carried the laundry basket outside, and I had to kind of keep moving him along as I was trying to put the clothes on the line. But it was nice to have that assistance, while I was out
Mhm.
there. And so it allowed him to feel good about being able to help with some of those mundane tasks that have
Mhm.
to get done.
Mhm.
And so otherwise, I'd have just picked up the basket and just went on out there and did it myself. And then he was going to cut the grass, and he did, in fact, do that. But it was so hot, he was going to have to wait. And I'm like, well, before
Mhm.
you cut the grass, we got to get these shirts off the line. So before you start, take the shirts off the line. And he did. I came downstairs, shirts were off the line. He had them all folded
Mhm.
up and they put them away because they were all his shirts, but
Mhm.
they were put
Mhm.
away. And he had cut the grass. So, yeah. So we have to also allow them to help us or ask them. And sometimes it's just a matter of finding little things that they can do that
Mhm.
do make a difference for us. Because, I could have hung out the shirts by myself, but it's
Mhm.
so nice to have help to do that.
Absolutely. 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 So we're learning. We're learning. We're all learning.
Mhm. Um, One of the things to think about too is whether or not, when we talk about the different seasons and how they can affect our patience and our perception, if one is suffering from grief because of a loss of a partner, regardless if it's divorce or death or motherhood or menopause, all those things affect your hormones, your emotional status. And then, of course, empty nest syndrome.
Mhm.
Sometimes we can go into a depression as a result of that initially, just trying to figure out what it is we need to do. And so sometimes dealing with that can also cause us to feel different as we
Mhm.
try to figure out who we are now in this next stage.
That's true. And we have to also stay on topic. Whatever it is that we need, we state that
Mhm,
and try not to drudge up other things along the way with it, to add to it. Well, while I got you here, let me bring up the so and so, so and so, and so and so that's
mhm.
been going on. That's not tonight's subject, that's another day. So staying on topic.
So this corner of the kingdom, and I think
Kimberly.
Kimberly says,
Mhm.
that, carrying the emotional mental load can make her feel overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, you are more likely to feel resentful.
Mhm. That's true.
And then Terry says the capacity for foolishness is reduced. Yeah, that's true. As we get older, stuff that we'll put up with is much less. It's like, look, I'm not being bothered a bit putting up with that. So you're right. The
Mhm.
capacity for foolishness is definitely reduced.
That's true.
And then Clarissa, it's always nice to see you when you jump on with us. She says she's a type A personality with a touch of OCD. And I could
Mhm.
be a little type A
Mhm.
myself.
I
And when I'm trying to do something, I'm like bang, 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 trying to get that done. So sometimes we have to pause and
Mhm.
take into consideration that someone else's speed may be a little bit slower than ours.
Mhm. Well, I have 2 type A's in the house. I am and he is.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Aw.
So Vibin said, Yaya said sometimes that's hard for her.
Mm.
Sister Isaac is back with us again. And Sister Isaac, I've thought about you a couple of times since we talked to you last week. I
Mhm.
hope your week has gone well and
Mhm.
that you are in a space where you are finding out more about yourself and how you can just kind of become more empowered and get your sexy back. So, yes, I've thought about you. So, yes,
Yeah, I'm glad you're back.
yes.
Hey, Stephanie.
Oh, today's her anniversary. Well, happy anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Yeah, getting ready for dinner. Hopefully, you and hubby are going to enjoy a nice dinner. And congratulations. It's always nice
Yeah,
to have another milestone.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And Tracy says, what a treat. Thank you, beautiful ladies. We're going into empty nesting. Yeah, it's
Okay.
fun most times, but it can be challenging. Husband doesn't always understand our time constraints. No, they don't.
That's true.
And
That's
and you know what, Tracy, the biggest thing that I struggled with as well, when our first kids were twins. So they left home at the same time. They left home to go away to college together, and we had one child still at home. But they left such a big hole because there were two of them, and we were very involved with their stuff. So by the time our youngest one left home to go away to school, we'd had a little bit of practice with
mhm.
the older one. And so I had kind of started like disengaging myself from some things and
Mhm.
finding other things to occupy that time. That's the hardest part about being an empty nester is
Mhm.
figuring out what you're going to do. How did that work for you, Leona?
Well, you're absolutely right. We started a little bit early, finding things that we could focus on, just the two of us,
Hmm.
and kind of kept that going, so that once that time came when the second child was ready to go, our daughter, then it was like, okay, bye. See ya. And
Hmm.
we had things planned out,
Hmm.
so that, you know, so to speak, we had a life. And
Yes.
I think sometimes as moms, as dads, that we get so caught up in the humdrum of everything, and moms particularly, we are caught up in the schedule of our children and trying to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, trying to make sure they're ready for graduation, trying to make sure that they're doing whatever it is that's on that list. And so sometimes we're so focused on that we forget to find time enough to start looking at what are we going to do beyond that
Yes.
time,
Beyond.
and becoming going back to becoming the couple.
Yes.
And that's the thing. We have to become the couple again.
Because
And
that's how it started out.
exactly, Exactly. But, you figure after 18 years of having this other little person or two, in your life, you forget how to really be the couple. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you've got to relearn it again. And it's so starting whichever child it is, whether it's the last child, starting during their, say, senior year, that's a good time to really get back into the dating mode between the two of you. Because
Mm-hmm.
once that child's gone, you need to have a life of just the two of you.
Yes, you do. So Tracy says that constraints between jobs, children, church, meetings, and everything else, they sometimes wonder why we don't get everything done, and that's frustrating. So yeah, sometimes they can't figure out, well, what did you do all day? Um, and I'll tell you what, Tracy. Now this probably isn't the best example, but my husband had gone. I think he had either gone fishing or gone to play ball. I'm not sure what it was he was doing, but he came home from wherever it was, and the house was a mess. And he's like, "Well, what did you do all day?" I said, "The same thing you did. I took the day off." And well, needless to say, he hasn't asked me that question again.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
they don't always get it. Now, like I said, that may not be the best example because I just like
Mhm.
snapped it right out. I thought you were gone all day,
Mhm. Mhm.
to do whatever. So this was my day that even though I was home, I decided I wasn't going to do this.
Mhm.
And sometimes I think they just need to understand that we have agendas just like they have agendas. And it's
Mhm.
not always the
Well,
house.
I
You
know.
can't let the kids go, but sometimes you can let something in the house go.
Mhm.
So and so
And,
so
and they have to learn how to appreciate what you do get done. And
mhm,
sometimes that's what makes you frustrated. The
mhm,
fact that on the good days, you never noticed.
mhm,
You never said, wow, the house really looks nice,
mhm,
or, whatever it may be. And it's that one time, that one
mhm,
day when things weren't perfect, when they're going to call attention to it.
mhm,
And so that's the moment that it goes back to what we were saying earlier. We've got to start that conversation early of making sure that we acknowledge what each other does and make that a habit early.
mhm.
Oh, they're newly empty nesters.
Yeah. So Alexandria says she learned that 2 deep breaths can switch off the amygdala, where we react without thought, and
Mhm.
switch on the prefrontal cortex, where we act with empathy. It's harder to say what we don't mean that way.
You're
Okay,
right.
those 2 deep breaths do. And that goes back into what we need to do when we talk about that peace plan. So let's just go
Mhm.
ahead and let me find that. Let me get this off and get this up. And so when we talk about the peace plan, the first thing you want to think about doing is to pause. Just kind of pause, take a couple deep breaths, and then you can ask yourself, like, what's going on here? Like, what's the problem? What am I really feeling?
Mhm.
And is it annoyance? Is it anger? Is it resentment? Are you feeling overwhelmed? But what is it? Are you tired? Are you hungry? And the biggest thing is, will this make a big difference tomorrow? Like, will it even matter tomorrow?
That's so true. That's so true. And I know I kind of got into, I'd say within these years of retirement, because I think I shared with everybody that um, w- retiring was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life.
Mhm.
And that was because, well, when we met, I was already working. He was already working. So work was not an option. It was from day one. But retiring, and all of a sudden, we both come home and we're home together 24/7. That was scary
Yeah.
because here you have this person home all the time. And so I had moments of where you know, maybe I didn't necessarily pause, and things would come out very quickly, and he didn't pause either. And so, there was a little tension initially. So as you think about that, what I tried to do for me is that I would stop, and I'd have to say a prayer. I'd have to pray for help.
Mm-hmm.
And, goodness gracious, I need some help right now.
Mm-hmm.
And because you didn't want, I didn't want the retirement. We had had good years. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to go into retirement. You hear of so many couples, they retire and then they divorce. And it's like,
Yes,
oh, you've been together 40 years and then, it's a big blow up over nothing.
little
And
things.
so it's the little things. So, I thought, well, I need to find a way to be able to calm myself down, because remember, I told you, two type A people coming home, it can be a challenge. And so um, that was my way of being able to pause and to just listen for an answer. And
Mm-hmm.
usually by the time I got through that, it was probably those 2 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
but it gave me a chance to stop
Mm-hmm.
and realize it's not even worth it. It's
Yes,
not even worth
exactly. It's
it.
like, will this matter tomorrow? And I think I too now I pause and I will think, okay, so what's really going on here? Is this something that I need to be annoyed about? And
Mhm,
so most of the time, that pause just helps me to, take a little bit of time, and
mhm,
then I can reframe whatever the situation is and ask myself, so like, what is going to be the best version of this particular story? Like,
mhm,
what is it that, needs to happen? So when I thought about the fish grease, it was like, so is this worth me getting annoyed over? Because there's going to be fish grease on the stove at least 2 or 3 times a week.
mhm,
Because he will make dinner, he will fry fish at
mhm,
least twice a week. And so I'm asking myself, is it worth it that I'm going to get upset over this?
mhm,
And when I compare all the other things that he does now, and he does much more in the home now than he ever did,
mhm,
but he's home more. And
mhm.
like myself, he's got the time to do it now compared to before when he was working and coaching. And, once school was out, then he was coaching, he was out all day with that. And
Mhm,
then, by the time he gets home, it's late and he's tired, get dinner, go to bed. Now we both have the time to focus on those little things to help one another out much better.
mhm, mhm,
So I reframed my thought about the fish grease on the stove. And so sometimes we might need to do that as well. And can you approach the situation with grace? Just give a little grace. I was at a family event on Sunday. I'd gone to
mhm,
Sunday dinner at one of my relatives' homes.
mhm,
And one of the girls that was there, her mother had a situation trying to park the car. And so her husband and then the homeowner, they were out there trying to help her sort it out. And when they came in, the men were snickering about whatever the situation was with her trying to park the car. And they were telling her daughter about it. And then the daughter was laughing and the mother was embarrassed. And so the mother was getting upset because she
mhm,
knew people were laughing at her.
mhm,
And then the daughter was like, well, why is she yelling at me? I wasn't even the one out there, and I didn't even bring up the conversation. I said, well, because you're safe. I said, just
mhm.
give her a little grace. I said, just give her a little grace. Because I could tell that the mom was embarrassed.
Yes.
And so sometimes you just have to just reframe, just okay, just give a little grace, because sometimes things can get taken out on you because you're safe.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
don't have, it's not something that's gonna matter the next day, so
Absolutely, absolutely. That is too that is something to think about. It's hard. Every day is hard, and every day is a new situation,
mhm.
seemingly, other than, in my case, he never puts the dishes in the dishwasher. They
Mhm,
always go in the sink. Now, true enough, he moves them from wherever they are, and he puts them in the sink. So at least
Mhm.
I know where they are. But getting those dishes into the dishwasher, that's the one thing I'm still working on. And I may be working on that for the next 30 years, but I don't think that's going to happen if it hadn't happened by now. So, but am I
And
hopeful?
that being said, though, Leona, you have to think, how important is that?
Doesn't bother me the least bit because
Exactly.
at least I don't have to run around all over the house
Hmm.
and pick up things.
Hmm.
Everything, he brings everything to the sink and it's there.
Hmm.
And so I just come in and put things in the dishwasher and he'll see me, hear me, and he'll say, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm putting everything in the dishwasher." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Hmm.
And rather than saying, "You could have put it in the dishwasher," I don't. I just do it.
And too, I think each of our homes end up with some unspoken, I don't want to say rules, but norms, some
Mhm,
unspoken norms. And it is the norm at your house that you load the dishwasher.
mhm,
It is the
mhm.
norm at your house that he will put the things in the sink. And that's pretty good that he
Yeah.
collects them, puts them in the sink, because you don't
Mhm,
have to go over to the table or go into the living room or whatever.
mhm,
But that's just the norm at your house. My
mhm,
husband will load it,
mhm,
but I need to rearrange a few things.
mhm, mhm,
And my husband will cook.
mhm,
Um, and let's say we're not having fish tonight, and I just don't feel like cooking. I'm like, babe, you know what? I just can't make dinner tonight. Can you cook? He'll figure something out. He'll go in the freezer. He'll pull out something. Or
mhm,
he'll say, well, then, let's order blah, blah, blah. So
mhm,
he'll figure out a way to take care of it.
mhm,
So, and it's the norm here for me to wash the clothes and
mhm,
throw them
mhm,
into the dryer. But he will help fold
mhm.
and put away. So you have to think, what is the norm at your house? And whatever the norm at your house is okay if you're okay with it. Now, if it's not
Exactly.
something that you're okay with, it doesn't mean you can't change it, but you have to be
Mhm,
purposeful about
mhm,
changing it. And you have to ask, and it may take a while, but it can be done. Because just because something has always been doesn't mean it has to be.
You
Um,
know, you are absolutely right. I'm thinking about the big guy has his laundry basket, and I tell you what, his laundry basket will be running over. Now I take my clothes straight to the laundry room, and I would love for him to bring those clothes to the laundry room. It took 3 years to get those him in the habit of taking the clothes and putting them in the laundry room because I'm thinking, okay, the once he gets all of it's heavy and
mhm.
I don't want to have to take it. So I have hinted and hinted and finally I just said, honey, this is too heavy. I cannot take this all the way down to the laundry room. But you know what now? I don't have to say a word. Those clothes are in the laundry room. And I said, when they're there, then I can wash them and keep them up. And so that's where we are. It worked. But I had to speak up.
Well, not only did you speak up, but you also used an I statement. I was going to talk about that next, but you popped it up already. So I don't know if I put it in the banners. Let me see if I
You
did.
did.
My
Oh, I
computer's
see.
acting
Mhm.
funny now. I'm trying not to let it do that thing where it kicks me out, then I have to come back in.
Mhm.
Oh, stop it. Come on. Well, I wanted to talk about an I statement versus you statements. And when you said, I cannot carry that, it's too
Mhm.
heavy. Can you help me?
Mhm.
Then that's what he did. So we're looking here at iMessages, and iMessages are very, very important. And so an iMessages when is letting people know how you feel and
Mhm.
what you need, but it doesn't stomp on the other person's perspective. And it's not an attacking message. So when you said, I can't carry that to the laundry room, I need help,
Mhm.
then instead of saying, you need to do this because it's too heavy, you said, I can't carry it to the laundry room, I need some help. And he jumped in and was like, okay, I can help you do that. And my husband does that too. He'll carry the laundry basket down the steps and, take it to the laundry area because he's afraid that it's one, it's heavy, or two, that I might trip going down the steps because I'm the one that's klutzy and clumsy, not him.
Mhm.
Um, but, something even as much as, you're always leaving your clothes on the floor or you've got your socks on the floor again. Those are you messages and they're attacking. But when you
Mhm.
say, when I have to pick up socks off the floor, it makes more work for me, is
Mhm.
one
Mhm.
example. Or which is not the same thing as you left your socks out again. Or
Mhm.
I feel undervalued or unappreciated when I have to do this or that.
Mhm.
Think about statements like that. And let me have our people that are in the chat try to put an I statement in the chat. Put something in there that you might need to reframe when you're talking to your spouse or your partner or your children. Um, like the kids, for example. Let's say the kids want to stay up till 10 o'clock. And you're like, no, you need to have your little behind in the bed by 9:30 because mom needs some peace and quiet. But you could rephrase it and reframe that and say,
That's true.
I need some quiet time at the end of the night.
Mhm.
So I need children to be in the bed by 9 o'clock. Now,
Mhm.
you can be in there with your light on, you can quietly
Mhm.
read, but I need little people in the bed. Something like that rather than an attacking statement or, you make me so
Mhm.
upset when I hear all this noise or whatever. So let's have some I statements get dropped in the chat. What are you laughing at? Do you see one? Or you see
I'm
one?
laughing at trying to get the kids in the bed. And and that is something I know we talked about last week, but that's something that's real important for couples is to have children with a definite bedtime,
Mhm.
because it does allow you, the two of you, to be able to have these conversations, these I messages, and those things that we need to talk about, and to be able to do it in a peaceful and loving way rather than to have the kids running around. And sometimes things come out and in such a way, you may say it a little more harshly,
Mhm.
not because you really wanted it to be harsh, but you've got other things going on around you, and it just comes out that way.
Or you're
And
tired.
yes, you're exhausted. And so you need that shower to kind of get yourself back in line. And for those of you who might have missed that shower a couple of weeks ago, but we need to be able to have the time to be able to have our conversations and to be able to regroup,
Mhm.
and that way we can start to think about what's really going on within ourselves and to look within. And certainly reframing the question helps tremendously. And sometimes we have to practice that.
Yes.
Yes,
That's why I asked them to practice there in the chat. And then can we
absolutely.
be grateful even in the annoyance? Because like I
Mhm,
said, I was grateful the fact that I had someone here that I could, be annoyed with. Because, everyone, different seasons have happened. And then we want to respond with purpose. So
mhm,
say what you need with clarity and not blame. So when you said that you needed help getting those clothes down to the laundry area, then he responded positively and was able to help you do that. So
mhm,
that's good.
mhm.
Whew,
Yeah.
a hot one.
Well, we're um, our partners are learning as we're learning,
Yes.
and that's the thing. And sometimes we're learning at different levels. It's kind of like being back in elementary school when the girls were always taller and
Mm-hmm.
always looked older than the boys. And we're still at that point, even where we are, of where we're at two different points. We may look like we're the same age.
Hmm.
We may look like we're functioning the same, but our minds are in two different places. And so those things that we find important may not be the most important thing to them.
True.
So, we really do need to stop and have the conversation. And that's important. And to do it in a kind way.
And on top of that, sometimes there's things that they just don't even see, things that they just don't even think about
Mm-mm.
that
Mhm.
we may be in a little tizzy about, but they haven't even seen that particular item. And
Mhm.
then, as we said, ask for help. So respond with purpose, and you can ask for help. So I could have said, I'd appreciate it if the fish grease could be strained and put away once it cools off. Can you
Mhm.
help me with that?
Mhm.
And then he'd be like, oh, sure, I can, he
Mhm.
can do that. Or socks left on the floor, instead of being placed in the hamper, make my job harder. Can you put them in the hamper when you take them off?
Mhm.
Just ask a simple direct. And then let it go if it truly doesn't need to be held. If it's not
Yeah,
a big deal, just let it go.
let it go. Tomorrow you won't even think about it.
Mhm. Let
I
him plan that.
see you over there. You got
Oh,
that fan
this
going.
is crazy. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
My goodness. So, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the three seasons of life. And we kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but one of the things to think about is that, there's those times when, you have a partner. And so there's different situations associated with that. Then there's the single mom that has a family that it's just her trying to manage everything. And then that third season is that person who's lost their partner for whatever reason. And so
Mm.
they're experiencing some grief and loss as a result of that, maybe feeling overwhelmed. And all three of these seasons can lead to overwhelm, can
Mm.
lead to frustration and annoyance and and things like that. So there's something to think about. Oh, and let me share one other thing too. I took a class when my sophomore year of college, um, when I was in college. I don't remember what
Mhm.
year, but it was called Marriage in the Family. And I had been married maybe a few months when I took this class, but that was the most important class of my entire college career.
Mm.
And one of the things that our instructor asked us to think about was, what is more important, being right or the preservation of the family unit?
Mm.
And I have come back to think about that every now and then, depending upon what may have been going on at a particular time. Like,
Mhm.
what's more important, being right or the preservation of the family unit? So, some things it was like, okay, this I can let go.
Mhm.
Some things, no, I can't let this go. We got to talk about it. This has got to be
Mhm.
handled. But at least it gave me pause to think about it.
That's true. That's true. I know hubby had traveled his career and he left on Sunday afternoon. And typically he was back usually by Friday evening.
Mhm,
And so we had the weekend. So
mhm,
we crammed a lot of living into that weekend, whether it was he coached sports, we went to church, we had all those things that were going on, and then just life, the grass cutting, all the things that
mhm,
typically husbands would do, and that he was so good at doing, he really would, but it made it hard if it was something that I got annoyed with because he was gone before we really had a chance to have that conversation. And so it's tough having those conversations when you're on the phone and
mhm,
he's hundreds of miles away because that's not what you want to talk about, at that point. So we have to be selective in where we're having the conversation and when, because sometimes we have to choose a good time to bring it up. And then
mhm.
sometimes by the time that time comes, you realize it's not even
It's
worth
not
the
important.
conversation.
Okay. Kimberly says her Bob is genetically incapable of returning jelly to the fridge after spreading his toast. Oh, that is funny.
I love it.
And then Sarah says, thanks for the advice. Something that has helped her a lot is meal prepping dinner for the week.
Mm-hmm.
She'll have hubby spend time with the kids on Sunday while she cooks for a few hours. Yeah, getting that meal prep in. And Leona, you talked about that one day, I think.
Yes, yes. And we will be talking a lot about that next week as we get ready for the children going back to school. And while I recognize that Sarah is a littles, but her little 5-year old may be getting ready to go to kindergarten, maybe. And
Mm-hmm.
so she may be dealing with that as well. But we're going to talk about some of those things, getting
Mm-hmm.
us all ready. Okay, we got Ursula.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Picking and choosing those words is important.
Yeah. Now here's Sister Isaac. She told us last week, that she
Mhm,
recently left an abusive marriage. And
mhm,
her question is, how do you keep from feeling resentful or holding a grudge with the disagreements? You know what, Sister Isaac? It's going to take some time and therapy to get through the mental, verbal, and emotional abuse that you sustained throughout the years of that marriage. It's going to take some time. And I'm
mhm,
not saying it's something you're going to get over, but it's something you can get through. And
mhm,
there's going to be some days when the resentment is gone, and then some days it's going to come back and it's going to be fresh
mhm,
and hot, and you're going to be feeling it again. It's going to take time for you to get through it.
mhm,
And I think I mentioned this before. If counseling is in your budget or if it's on your insurance plan, go to therapy because it can be so helpful. If you can only go for 6 weeks, go for 6 weeks, but it can really be helpful in helping you to figure out like what your next steps are and
mhm,
how you can just kind of rebuild and empower yourself to go to the next level because that's what you want to do. You don't want to hold on to the past. You want to move forward into
mhm,
the future. So you have today and hopefully you have tomorrow. So, and
mhm,
I know it's easy to say, let it go, because
mhm,
it's not that easy, but you're
mhm,
going to have to work at it. And it's going to take work.
mhm,
It's going to
mhm.
take work.
And it's really working with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because you figure you've removed him physically
Mm-hmm.
from your life, but it's working with you of being able to kind of wipe that away
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to fill it with good emotions
Yeah.
and good activities. And I think last week we talked about the fact that finding new things that
Mm-hmm.
are pleasant, things that you enjoy, being
Mm-hmm.
able to do those things will eventually take over. And
Yeah.
you'll be able to put that out of the way. But it's going to take some time. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight.
No, it's not.
And anger is hard to get over. And there's a lot of anger, I'm sure.
And
And
not
just
only that, but holding on to the anger, the grudges, all of that, that don't affect him because he's gone.
that's right.
It affects you. You're the one that wakes up still thinking about it and feeling that anger and then just kind of
Mhm,
getting yourself all worked up.
mhm,
So if you can kind of push some of that away,
mhm.
that's going to benefit you.
That's true. And whether you realize it or not, it affects your health.
Yes.
So if you think of it from a health standpoint, you want to be as healthy as possible.
Hmm.
So trying your best each day to start fresh gives you a new opportunity, looking at each day as a new opportunity to have a healthy day
Hmm.
and one that is free of the negativity.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Heather.
Tamika's talking about currently in perimenopause.
Oh,
As y'all
Lord.
can see, I thought I was through menopause, but apparently I'm still having the hot flashes associated with that. And let's see. Sister Isaac says she appreciates our thoughts.
Oh,
And
that's
let's
sweet.
see. So Ronnie, Ronnie's back. And she said,
Yay.
we never have a day off. And you know, you're right. We don't get a day off. There's
Mm-mm,
always
mm-mm.
something to do. Like I'll be getting ready to go upstairs and he'll be sitting in his chair watching TV. And I said, well, babe, I'm going upstairs, which is my way of saying I'm going to go upstairs either into the office or I'm going to go up and get ready for bed. And then he'll say, okay. And then I'll be doing this and I'll be doing that. He said, well, I thought you were going upstairs. I said, I am. I got one more thing to do. And he says, well, you've always got one more thing. I said, well, it's because I always have one more thing. Always one more thing for us to do. And I'm
Mhm,
doing this and doing that. And then I was like, okay, then I'm up, and then he'll come up in a little bit later and then we'll sit there or whatever. So yeah, we
yeah.
really don't get a day off
Nope, nope,
at all.
not at all.
So Kimberly says, Lord, give me strength to be patient and kind. She prays for that
Yeah.
daily at work and at home. That's a good prayer to pray.
Mhm, mhm.
And then Clarissa says she retired 3 years ago. Scary, but even scarier is the anticipation of Hub's retiring in a year and a half. And you know what, though? When my mom used to complain about my dad when he retired, I couldn't figure out what she meant, but now I understand. But they have to figure out what they're going to do. They need to have a plan and a purpose when they retire too. And it takes a little while for them to figure it out.
Mhm, mhm.
So
And
yeah.
usually the plan that they have is that you will have already worked it out.
Yeah. Ursula says choose your battles.
Yep, that's so true.
And then May says good quality old school men. Younger generation women are dealing with hard problems. Y'all have little stuff adjustments. Honey, trust me, we've been there, done that. So
Absolutely,
they good quality
absolutely.
old school men. Yeah, we
Yeah,
had
you
we had
do.
to work on them a little bit.
Yeah,
We had to work on them.
that's true.
Let's see. Uh so
Mm,
here's an iMessage from Clarissa. I need you to put things back in their place when you use them.
mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh oh, now this is funny. May says her husband will send her pictures when he's picking up something. He's careful not to bring the wrong thing back. Oh, that is funny.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's cute.
Ella said she's a widow.
Yes.
Oh, now Ursula says that my mother would say you don't always have to have the last word. And that's
Mhm.
from my course. It's like, is being right or the preservation of the family unit. So you don't have to have the last word. You don't have to always be right.
That's true. That's
Timing
true.
is everything. Um,
Well, while you're looking, to those of you in the chat, it is just so sweet the way that you are lifting um, um, Sister Isaac. Is Isaac, Sister
yes,
Isaac,
Mr. Isaac. Yeah.
lifting her up and giving her great support
Hmm.
along the way. That is so nice.
Yeah. And so here's Ursula saying, better know one than the wrong one. So that's true.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay.
That's right.
And then Terry says, we need to teach our daughters and sons to be responsive to their spouse's needs, and then we show them the behavior to model. Absolutely.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. Okay.
Hmm.
So let me just go back in and just say, sometimes whatever the situation is, you may or may not need to fix it tonight, but choosing peace over proving a point sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then with the peace plan, it is you pause and ask,
Mm-hmm.
what am I really feeling? Am I tired or hungry or overwhelmed? Will this matter tomorrow? Two, you're going to reframe. What's the best version of this story? Can I
Mhm.
approach this with grace instead of frustration? Can I be grateful even in the annoyance? And then step three is respond with purpose. Say
Mhm.
what you need with clarity and not blame. Use an I
Mhm.
statement. Ask for help directly and then let it go when it doesn't truly need to be held. So think about that in your peace plan. And then for those of you that joined us late, I am Denise Jordan. I am the host of Homemaking with Purpose and Homemaking with Denise. And with me is my co-host, Leona of Ebony, Ivy, and Time with Leona. I teach traditional homemaking to today's homemakers, and Miss Leona is all about the home cook. She helps you get it done in the kitchen. I've got her channel linked in the description box, and Miss Leona is on her way to 5K. So if you have not joined her family, please do so because she's trying to get to that 5,000 subscriber milestone. And then this episode of Homemaking with Purpose is brought to you by Yes You Can, a beginner's guide to water bath canning, and it should be live within a week. I'm hoping it's all done and ready to go in a week. So do sign up for my newsletter. I do have it in the description box below because I will send out in the newsletter when it's available, and then we will email it from there. And then, Leona, did you want to mention your sourdough series?
Um, I am working on a sourdough series. It's going to be coming. And keep this in mind. We have August right around the corner, and it's coming. We're going to be talking about our homes and our kitchens and getting everybody ready to go back to school. And so be on the lookout for that, as well as if you're interested in plant based cooking with a I'll say, multiple family of those who have different types of diets, then you're going to want to be keeping an eye on the things that are coming forward here at Ebony, Ivy, and Time.
Okay. And then Molly says she can relate to everything right now to the socks on the floor. Such a good night tonight. And Tahara says
To
she
her.
recently found
Mhm.
both our channels and she's been married
Aw,
2.5 years. Thanks so much for the wisdom. You got to come, girl. We have fun every week. It's
we
something different,
do.
but we always have a good time. And Ursula says, great chat.
Mhm.
Wonderful evening. Great night. Good night, Dolores. May the alchemist says, thank you. And then I had mentioned for the woman in a long term relationship, you love him, you built a life together, but that doesn't mean you won't feel irritated. So
Mhm.
let's normalize that you're definitely going to have irritations at times, but be willing to speak up, to ask for help, and take a breath and remember that you both are on the same team. You just have to let them know sometimes what the rules are. And so, tools for you could be a weekly check in, a calm kitchen talk, not sniping in the hallway, but let's sit down at the table and talk about it. And
Mhm.
then choosing connection over criticism. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes, I know myself, sometimes I can be quick to criticize rather
Mhm.
than think about, well, how can I connect on this particular thing? So there's that. And then for the single mom, you are doing everything. And the last thing you need to feel is guilt over being annoyed. You are going to feel irritated. You're going to feel annoyed. You're not wrong for needing rest.
That is wonderful. Now, first, I'm looking at God's woman, and she's asking a question about more tofu. And yes, I will definitely do that. She wants more tofu recipes, and that is certainly in the queue of things that are coming. We will be plant basing it from now until, and I I see that she incorporates a lot of vegetable dishes, but she said when she gets tofu, it's out and she doesn't cook it. So we're going to be working on that. You'll learn how to cook tofu. But some things back to what we were talking about tonight. I kind of looked at three things. For me, I need to maybe perhaps use a little more humor And as
Mhm.
my mother would say, put a little sugar on it as
Mhm.
I'm coming out with some of the responses, and think about that. Take that 2 minutes and or 2 seconds and stop, catch my breath before I speak. I
Mhm.
also want to choose grace over
Yes.
judgment. And I want to reinforce the positive behavior and try, if at all possible, to ignore the negative behavior.
Mhm.
And that way, the focus is on the good things and not those things that are just going to annoy the pajubis out of me. So
Yes.
let's try to do that because we're all growing. We need patience, we need love, and the big word, we need grace.
Yes. So for that single mom, when we're talking about some tools you might consider, that morning me time before the family gets up, like before the family gets up, have a little time for peace, for prayer, maybe for reading, just to sit down with a quiet cup of coffee before they get up and get your day started. Or it could be you have to get that me time on the end once they're in bed for the night, which means they might need to go to bed a little earlier so that you
Mhm,
can have that time. And then think about 5-minute resets where you just kind of take some time to reset some things, and
mhm,
then outsourcing when you can. And you can delegate some things to older children
mhm,
when possible. But if it's not possible, you just have to do what you can and
mhm,
give yourself grace. I think you've really emphasized that quite a bit tonight, Leona, that we need to give ourselves grace. And I
mhm,
hope you hear that message.
mhm,
And then for the woman or the widow that's now alone, you might find yourself missing the very things that used to annoy you. That's not weakness, it's a love and a longing that still lingers. And
mhm.
some days the silence in the kitchen is going to be louder than the clatter of the dishes ever was. So we see you, and we've got a space for you in our hearts tonight as well. So I think you said it last week that as women, um, having been married more than 52 years, we've been there, done that. There's not much we haven't seen or heard about. So we
That's true.
truly hold you in our hearts because we understand.
We
We
do.
So let's see what you guys have to say. I think we've probably checked all of that. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend,
Mhm.
and leave us some comments. If you're on the replay, leave us some comments in the comment section as you go through. And we'll say good night. We'll see you next time.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.